Hi, I'm Mark Webber, Formula One driver in a previous life. Did a lot of racing overseas, all around the world, which I thoroughly enjoyed obviously. Long career, and currently now one of the co-founders of Dr. Hydrate.
I'm Caine Eckstein, ex-Ironman, 5 times Coolangatta Gold champion and 2-time current Guinness World Record holder for pull-ups and a co-founder of Dr. Hydrate. My dad was a lifeguard for 25, 27 years growing up. So every single day we were down the beach, picnicking down the beach. And then having an older brother, that was also pretty good at Ironman racing. I always wanted to sort of catch up to him. And back then there was the Uncle Toby's, and he made it when he was about 16. So, you know, I was only 13 or so then. And those guys were like rock stars then. On Baywatch and everything like that, so I thought they were like gods, you know, watching guys like Phil Clayton, Corey Hutchings, Trevor Hendy, and that's all I really wanted to be like. And my dad was our coach, and then growing up you win state titles, Australian titles, you just want more and more and more, and also trying to chase my brother. And then finally made the Nutri-Grain when I was 16, and then won my first Coolangatta Gold when I was 19. And then after that, you know, the gold's on every year, so you want to get 2, you want to get 3, you want to get 4. And ended up getting 5 Coolangatta Golds, won a Nutri-Grain Ironman series as well. And then sort of started doing that and a few other things and got into the pull-ups. Got a Guinness World Record for that on the Today Show in New York City. And then that was all the motivation I really needed to keep going.
Phenomenal career, mate.
Yeah, well, nothing like yours, Pat. It's all right.
Yeah, mate. Well, I started on motorbikes, a young kid, about 5, 6 years old, on the farm. Mum was getting pretty stressed out about 2 wheels, so I still loved my motorsport and went to 4 wheels, so go-karts as a youngster. About 12, 13, I was on go-karts. Did that for quite a few years. And then my dad was pretty brave. He was braver than me. He just obviously had a bit of a vision of how I was going and thought, let's see if we get a racing car, which actually did a test session to see if I was half decent, so that was a good initiation to see how well I'd go in the racing car. That went pretty well. Did well here domestically in Australia. Went to Europe. I drove a Ford Laser for the first a 1978 Ford Laser on the road over there for about 3 or 4 years. I was on 43 pound a day, and got through the junior categories over there, some half decent success. Just got to F1, 12-year career, and the rest is history, buddy. Well, I think we're working for a bit of a view here, son.
Yeah.
Hello, look at that. We're lucky a bit of shelter today, mate. Like on a boiling hot day, it'd be pretty tricky up here, wouldn't it, in terms of the old temperature?
Yeah, I think it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some tricky days, mate. Like in the car, like it's fascinating when you get it right, you feel pretty awesome. Like I knew racing on the equator for me was really important to get that right. Singapore, Malaysia. We only had like a litre for 2 hours. We had a little sip and carry, making sure that you really balanced your fluid intake really, really well. Yeah, I remember one day in Monaco, mate, at a curtain raiser, I got hyponatremia where I just drank water all day.
Yeah.
Very, very, you know, bad advice in the build-up, not educated on the hydration topic, if you like. Of course, junior categories, and I just really washed my body of all key nutrients and, you know, all the you know, goodness that we have, that we need to have. And I just pretty much fainted towards the end of the race. Had a huge shunt, completely horrendous hydration strategy. It was just shocking. So from that day onwards, I learnt it was nearly cost my career, because you know, if I didn't get that, you know, buttoned down early in my career in terms of the hydration strategy, key component for our sport. So nailed it in the end, but tough lesson.
But like you said, sometimes you just like, you're off racing, you get confident, you're in a new place. Sometimes, you know, you're not really feeling yourself because you're away from home and you just do things a little bit different, and all of a sudden they bite you in the bum and you made a mistake and there's no real going back. But I think that's what I was really, because I'm a little bit OCD with things as well, but I was really pedantic about the preparation of things, and I remember there was one race, it was the last race at Noosa Heads here, and it was the last race of the series, and Ali Day and I were leading going into the last race. My brother was like 3 points behind, so if we got out of the top 3 and he won, he would have won. But it was 36 degrees here in Noosa, dead flat, and that round was 5 Ironmans, drop out like 3 from every race. So you did 5 Ironmans straight with about 2 minutes rest, and I remember I just loved the heat, hydrated right, and I won all 5 Ironmans. So no one's ever done that before. Won all 5, won the first one, second one, all the way through the last one, won the last one, then won the series. But just looking into that, I remembered, you know, if you hydrate right, you sort of, you know, you're sort of preparing or doing all the little things right before your race, the race is easy. If you do the little things wrong, that's when things go wrong, your body shuts down, and you know, you can have the worst day of your life. So it's very little things, but you know, definitely hydration. Like you said, your mind goes, you start hallucinating, your body doesn't feel right. But
you can be as fit as you want.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Even the fitter you are, sometimes the worse it is, because you know, your body's just in such good nick. If things are just going a little bit wrong, it just, you know, collapses. Like those Ironmen used to say, the fittest, you know, they might be the fittest in the world, but they might not be the healthiest. But probably the worst days, and like you would know, some training days you've had, and I've had, I just, you know, may have had a coffee in the morning and just not drank anything, and then gone out for a 30K run, and just, it's nearly, like it felt like it nearly killed me. Like I've been in bed after with a tea towel on my head with ice on it, just thinking, having a bucket next to my bed, thinking I was gonna throw up just after a run. Just because, you know, you didn't hydrate right, and you know, you sort of didn't take care of your body, and then you pushed it too hard. And no matter how tough you are and how fit you are, your body's gonna give up at some point, and yeah, it's gonna bite you. So you learn from those mistakes, as we know, and you move on and get things right. And that's why I try and teach, you know, the young kids that I coach, you know, do all the little things right. Don't go somewhere running around with your mates and go to a race. Try and think about what you're doing. Well, looking back at it, I remember our first conversation when you were asking about my pull-ups, and I was training really, really hard, and I sort of, in my head, I'd worked out how I was gonna break these records, and I was doing all this training, but I knew I couldn't just have all these protein and eat all this food and put on all this muscle to get there, because my body would just give out. So I sort of thought you had to, well, we had to create this drink that was so full of vitamins and minerals and L-glutamine and L-carnitine and electrolytes that it was going to sort of like fuel your body throughout the day to do this rigorous training, but you didn't need all those extra sugars and, you know, things that you get in pretty much every other drink out there, all the foods that you eat during the day to sort of fuel your body. And, you know, I think making the blend that we made, because when we really sort of toned down, I remember we were thinking, you know, everyone in the team was saying, if we don't make the best drink in the world, we're not going to do it. And if we don't have the tastiest drink in the world, we're not going to do it. And I remember hearing that, and I loved that, because I knew we were going to have the best thing in the world, because, you know, we had 4 good minds working together. We were going to create something really, really good. But I think just having full reign of making the formula, you know, you can buy magnesium powder or L-glutamine powder, and it might be full of that stuff, but your body can only absorb so much. And it's just, you know, it might sweat out the sodium that you're not using or pee out the magnesium you're not using. Whereas, you know, the formula that we made of pretty much like 20% recommended daily intake, your body's just going to absorb all of that, and it's going to get all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the electrolytes to replace all the fluid you're losing, and you know, the L-glutamine for muscle recovery, digestion. I thought L-carnitine was great for, you know, burning fat with your burning your fat cells through energy and also cognitive thinking. So to me, it was the all-in-one drink, and there was nothing like that on the market. So, you know, still proud of it sort of every day. I think it's definitely the best drink in the world. Yeah,
I think it's fascinating, you know, what you mentioned there in terms of finding the no compromise approach about, you know, taste obviously is critical, making sure obviously all the ingredients, you know, all in one, you know, total slam dunk. We needed to nail that, but obviously I think it was fascinating, you know, over a year of testing, trialing, making sure that the opportunity to have a really, I mean, the battery of testing we did, blind testing, to making sure it was unanimous, that everyone's like, okay, against all the opposition, you know, let's line them all up, let's go. Like, and we had some really, really, not tough, but tricky moments where like, he's gonna fold now because, or she's gonna fold because she's not gonna be able to find what we put there in terms of where's the mystery one. But Dr. Hydrate always was on taste, on, you know, aftertaste, on all those critical, the necessary things you need for a drink like that to make sure people are, you know, hydrating well. You know, it was really proud to see it in the end. You know, I think it was 46 sort of different tests that we did along the way to drop onto the right product. So it's pretty awesome in the end, wasn't it?
It was. Well, one thing I used to always try, and this was later in my career, and I remember saying this to the kids I coached and stuff like that, you know, because there's so many times you'd wake up on a Monday morning or a Sunday morning after your race and you just would give anything to have that race again. You're like, I would just give anything to do it again today. So as to say, these kids try and, you know, before your race, try and think like you've already had that sort of feeling. You've woken up the next morning and you've just wished you could have that race again. Like you lost it and you just wish you could have one more chance at it again, and go and do it, sort of, you know, because there's nothing worse than doing something wrong, making a silly mistake and stuffing the race that you'd have to wait a whole year to do again, and you can't do it again. So I'd always think, if I lined up on the line of an Australian Ironman final, you know, this is my second shot at it. I've already had a chance and I've blown it, and this is my one more chance at doing it again. And you're kind of lucky to get that chance. And don't stuff up, do everything right, make the most of it. And if you lose and you wake up the next morning and you're lost, you can sort of accept it and know you did the right thing, you did everything you could, and you know, it was enough or it wasn't enough.
Yeah, my advice to myself, or a younger version of myself, or youngsters coming through in any sport, I think is surround yourself with great people, people that are prepared to push you. You know, no shortcuts. Consistency is crucial, to be absolutely consistent, making sure you're a better example of yourself than the day before, giving yourself a real chance. And my dad always used to say, compare yourself to the best. Don't compare yourself to average or the soft targets, compare yourself to the absolute best in your field and try to learn off them and ultimately try and beat them. That was the advice I used to live off. Mate, yeah, if I went right back, I think what I would tell myself if I was on the grid for my first race to what I knew, you know, 12, 13 years later, having done 215 Grand Prix, I think it's never underestimate, you know, working closely with the people that are going to influence your result. And that sounds very blasé, but I think just how much effort you can put into getting the best out of yourself in those very important relationships that can move the needle for you. And don't underestimate that everyone is there to make your performance better. So I think that I got better at that as my career went on, in working with people that were going to influence my result in the real, all the nitty gritty, small details. You think you know when you start your career, but you can really get better at that as you evolve as a professional athlete.
I suppose some bit of advice I'd give to myself, sort of, you know, in my first Australian titles compared to, you know, my last Australian titles, I was always pretty competitive. I put so much pressure on myself as a kid, and I definitely took that pressure off myself the older I got. And the nice answer would be, you know, don't put too much pressure on yourself, but I think pressure's good for a young kid, to be super nervous before they race. But I suppose the biggest advice I'd give myself would be, you know, all those older guys, they're just human. You know, you see boxers say it, they got 2 arms, 2 legs, but you look at them like they're kind of unbeatable sometimes. And it would just be sort of take no prisoners, train your hardest, go out there to win, don't be too nice. And yeah, just do it for yourself as a younger kid.
Whether you're doing recreational sports, weekend footy, netball, whatever it is, we're super proud that this product is safe for you to use for all those occasions.
With Dr. Hydrate, we really wanted a high amount of electrolytes, so we've got nearly 600 milligrams of electrolytes with potassium, magnesium, calcium and sodium. And Mark, I know sodium was really important with you with your race testing.
Yep, absolutely, buddy. Yeah, sodium's important because it just has an element of retention to hold the fluid in the tummy for a bit longer to make sure it's not really going through you any faster than it needs to. So yeah, in our environment, it was absolutely crucial that was important. So cool to get that in the product, mate. So I was happy with that.
So one thing we're really proud of at Dr. Hydrate is the HASTA approval. So our formula's HASTA approved, but every batch gets HASTA approved as well. So it gets tested for over 250 banned substances. So it's not just only important for professional athletes, but it's also important for a few other people. Yeah, so we created Dr. Hydrate. For me, I was going for 2 Guinness World Records. So obviously for pull-ups, and pull-ups is just the ultimate exercise for power to weight. And power to weight's basically, you know, the power, the strength you have for every sort of kilogram of weight you have as well. So I wanted to be as lean as I possibly could, but still also have that strength, and to train every single day to break 2 Guinness World Records. So we created Dr. Hydrate, full of vitamins and minerals, electrolytes, L-glutamine, L-carnitine, to really replenish the body, to give you that energy to be able to do all that work throughout the day, but without all the added sugar and all the calories that you get in all these other sort of drinks.
A lot of interesting questions for us at Dr. Hydrate about when people should be drinking the product. And I think that, you know, what's fascinating, the 6, 7 hour, 8 hour sleep, people don't realise how dehydrated they get when they're actually sleeping. So I think starting the day, topping up your hydration status is always a good way to start the day. Of course, if people are out there training, doing some other extra fitness, of course, if your sweat loss is a little bit higher, of course, you can top up again. But I think even traveling, for me, for example, I know that, you know, I do a lot of traveling, so making sure that my hydration status is good on long haul flights, short haul flights, making sure that, you know, I'm really topped up to make sure that my status of hydration is right on the money. And yeah, so there's really, I would say, aim more towards AM, but of course, if you know, doing sessions in the afternoon, of course, you're going to top up the hydration there as well. Mental health, big topic these days. I think that exercise is a phenomenal outlet for helping your mental health, but also, in my experience anyway, as a professional athlete back in the day, tried to stay as present as I could, not bite off too much mentally down the road to make sure I got anxiety about things that I couldn't control in the future, and also doing the basics brilliant, mate. I just enjoyed doing the basics really, really well, chipping away and making sure that I wasn't exactly biting off too much so I get stressed about effectively.
Yeah, as I say, you know, healthy body, healthy mind. So I think obviously hydration's a big thing, eating right, and just exercising, getting the endorphins going. You know, when you're stressed, it's just a good stress relief. Get out there and exercise, and that's what we're trying to promote, a healthy, active lifestyle. Setbacks, I think that we're all confronted with those every now and again. No different in elite sport. In my sport, I had a huge crash in '99. Which could have gone either way. So then I had sort of 8 months recovery from that, and people sort of write me off, can I come back? Not sure if you can recover, and that was all fuel on the fire for me to making sure that I could come back, you know, apply myself, big discipline, and just focus on all the 1%ers to get myself back into the car. So I think, again, surround yourself with the right people, the right attitude is everything, enthusiasm, passion, and yeah, come back out the other side. And also, there's not a lot of people, they don't feel sorry for you. The onus is on you. Look yourself in the mirror and say you've got to bounce back as best you can and get the job done. Yeah, I suppose, you know, being athletes, the biggest setback and the thing that frustrates you the most is injuries. Like injuries, yeah, they're really hard because you're in a routine and all of a sudden you have to change your whole lifestyle. But yeah, I tore my bicep doing my first Guinness World Record in New York, and I knew I tore it 5 hours into the record. I could just feel I tore it, and then, you know, I had to keep on going. So that wasn't too bad, but then after that, trying to do the recovery, coming into summer here, try to still race, and then obviously didn't race my best because I couldn't do everything, you know, correctly like I used to do it. And, you know, sometimes you just got to have rest and recover. But when you're an athlete, it's hard to sort of take that advice from doctors and stuff like that. So I think that was definitely probably the hardest thing I dealt with in my career.
The future for Dr. Hydrate, what does it look like? What would we be proud of? Of course, I think that if we can touch a lot of people's lives where it comes to, if you're into your sports, if you're into, for example, we've got dance communities now using our product, if it's netball, football, whatever it is, and all the other areas we've spoken about in terms of, you know, military and emergency services, etc. I think the hydration is key. We know that. We need, you know, water and good, you know, ingredients in our body every single day. So if we can kick some big goals here in Australia, that'd be sensational. It's a tough environment here. We know that hydration is key. It's a hot country. If we can go offshore at some point, be very, very proud of our product, knowing that we've you know, built it out of Australia here and taken the world on.
Yeah, obviously this is like our little baby. We've formulated this from scratch, and you know, even now getting messages from people just saying how much they love our product, how much it's helped them with their training, like that actually like excites me when I see those messages, and I'm really actually grateful for them telling us that. So if that can, you know, widen out and we can go international and we can have, you know, sports teams, athletes and just everyday people using it, feeling better, you know, like a lot of people just put up with headaches just because they don't realise, you know, they're dehydrated throughout the day. So you feel a lot better being hydrated, I know that, and hopefully everyone can start using it. Really appreciate the product and start, you know, loving it. So you can follow us on social media, on Facebook, on drhydrate.com.au and on Instagram, dr.hydrate.